Hari Om. Sukumati, please commence.
Hari Om. Sahana bhavatu sahanau bhunatu sahaviryam karavavai tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakodi Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niradam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Om Radhasmarami Hridi Samspuradaatmatattvam Sajjit Sugam Paramaham Sagadin Turiyam Yesupna Jagara Sushuptama Vaidi Nityam Tadbrahma Nishkalamaham Najabhuda Sankaha Pradarbhajami Manasa Vacha Samagamyam Vacho Vibhandi Nigilaya Danugrahena Yenneti Neti Vachanir Nigamabhavucho Tam Deva Deva Majamachudamahuragram Pradharnamami Tamasa Paramarkavarnam Purnam Sanadana Padam Purushotamakyam Yasminnidam Jagata Sheshamasheshamukto Rajvam Bhujangamaiva Pratibhasidam Vai. Pranasedam vache sarvam Prithiveya Pratishtitam Mateva Putran Rakshasva Srinya Prajnan Cha Videyana Iti. തിരുവാതിക സ്തോത്രം. അനന്ത സംസാര സമുദ്രതാര നൗകായിതാഭ്യാം കുരുഭക്തിതാഭ്യാം വൈരാഗ്യ സാമ്രാജ്യത പൂജനാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം കവിത്വവാരാശിനിശാകരാഭ്യാം ദൗർഭാഗ്യദാവാം സുതമാലികാഭ്യാം ദൂരീകൃതാനം പ്രവിബദ്ധധീഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം നഥായയോ ശ്രീ പതിതാം സമീപം കദാചിദപ്യാശു ദരിദ്രവൈര്യാഃ മൂകാശ്ച വാചസ്പതിതാം ഗീതാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം നാലീകനീകാശ പദാകൃതാഭ്യാം നാനാവിമോഹാദിനിവാരികാഭ്യാം നമജ്ജനാഭീഷ്ടദതിപ്രദാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം കൃപാലിമൗലി പ്രചരത്നകാന്തി സരിദ്വിരാജാചഷകന്യകാഭ്യാം നൃപത്വദാഭ്യാം നതലോകപങ്ക്തി നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം പാപാന്ധകാരാർക്കപരംപരാഭ്യാം താപത്രയാഹീന്ദ്രഖഗേശ്വരാഭ്യാം ജാഢ്യാബ്ധി സംചോഷണപാഠവാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം ശമാധിഷഡ്ഗവൈഭവാഭ്യാം സമാധിദാനപ്രദീക്ഷിതാഭ്യാം രമാധവാംഭ്രീ സ്ഥിരഭക്തിതാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം സ്വാർച്ചാപരാണാം അഖിലേഷ്ടദാഭ്യാം സ്വാഹാ സഹായാക്ഷധുരം ധരാഭ്യാം സ്വാന്താച ഭാവപ്രദപൂജനാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം കാമാദിസർപ്പവൃജഗാരുഢാഭ്യാം വിവേകവൈരാഗ്യനിധിപ്രദാഭ്യാം ബോധപ്രദാഭ്യാം ധൃതമോക്ഷദാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം. മോഹം കരോതി വാചാലം പങ്കും ലംഘയതേ ഗിരിം യത്കൃപാതമഹം വന്ദേ പരമാനന്ദമാധവം യം ബ്രഹ്മാ വരുണേന്ദ്രരുദ്രമരുതഃ തുന്വന്തി ദിവ്യൈസ്തവേ വേദൈ സാംഗപദക്രമോപനിഷദേ ഗായന്തി യം സാമഗാഃ ധ്യാനാവസ്ഥിതദ്ഗതേന മനസാ പശ്യന്തി യം യോഗിനോ യസ്യാന്തം ന വിദുസുരാസുരഗണാഃ ദേവായ തസ്മൈ നമഃ. സർവധർമാൻ പരിത്യജ്യ മാമേകം ശരണം വ്രജ അഹം ത്വാ സർവപാപേഭ്യോ ക്ഷയിഷ്യാമി മാ ശുചഃ. ശ്ലോകസ് 31 to 40. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shri Krishna Paramatmani Namaha. Adha Shashtodhyayaha Dhyana Yogaha. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Sarva Bhudastidam Yoma Bhajate Gattvamastitaha Sarvadha Vartamanyuhi Sayogi Mayi Vartate Atmaupamena Sarvatra Samam Pashyati Yojuna Sukham Vayadi Vadukham Sayogi Paramo Mataha Arjuna Uvacha Yoyam Yogastvaya Proktaha Samyena Madhusudana Edasyaham na pashyami Chanjalatvastitim stiram Chanjalam himana Krishna Ramadhi baladastrodum Tasyaham nigraham mani Vayuriva sudushkaram Sri Bhagavan Asamshayam Mahabhavu Manodurnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagena Chadrihyate Asamyadatmana Yogaha Dushprava iti me matihi Vaishyat Manadu Yadada Shakyo Vaktumupayataha Arjuna Uvacha Ayati Sardayo Petaha Yoga Chalita Manasaha Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim Kam Gadi Krishna Gacchati Kachinno Bhaya Viprashtaha Chinnabhramiva Nashyati Apratishto Mahabhavu Vimudho Brahmana Vadhi Etam me samchayam Krishna Chetumarhasya Cheshataha Todanya samchayasyasya Chetana Hyupapadyate Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Parthanaiveghanamutra Vinashasthasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Kaschid Gadim Tata Gachadi Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om. Thank you. Hari Om. For a recap, we have this week. Sharma ji is around. Hari Om, very sorry, I logged out by mistake. Sharma ji is there? I gather he is not there. So we'll move to Umesh ji for this week's verses.
Hari Om. Today we will cover Shloka 36 and 37. What then will be the lot of those who have no self-control? Asayat manatma yogo dushprapa iti me matihi Vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptumupayatah. Asamyatatmana, by a man of uncontrolled self, yoga, dushprapa, hard to attain, iti, thus, may, my, mati, opinion, vashatmana, by the self, by the self-controlled one, two, but, yatata, by the striving one, shakya, possible, avaptum, to obtain, upayatah, by proper means. Yoga, I think, is hard to be attained by one of uncontrolled self, but the self-controlled striving can obtain it by proper means. In the previous stanza, extreme emphasis was placed on practice, but what constitutes the spiritual abhyasa was not indicated even directly in that verse. A scientific book that leaves missing links, either in its arguments or in its logic, is no textbook at all. In the stanza under review, Krishna is giving direct clue to what he meant by the term abhyasa. Though the Lord's statement expresses quite an obvious truth, even a divine master like Krishna dare not declare in Hinduism any statement of his own with the authority of a spiritual text. At best, any interpreter of religion can only declare his opinion. All intelligent men and serious students of the scriptures have the right to entertain their own individual opinions, conclusions, and convictions based upon logic and personal experiences. But these opinions can change, and they do keep on changing from time to time, in as much as they depend entirely upon the conditions of the times and the types of mind that come to evaluate and declare these opinions. In Sanskrit, the term matam means opinion. The conclusions of opinions of Christ, Muhammad, Krishna, Buddha, and other became religious, seemingly different from one another, but all of them have the same fundamental truth, which constitute that they term in Sanskrit as dharma. As his personal opinion, the divine singer of Gita declares here that the uncontrolled and therefore a totally dissipated personality cannot bring into the pursuit of religion the necessary amount of dynamic vigor and vitality to sustain him till he reaches the peak of his self-discovery. It is therefore said, yoga is hard to be attained by one of uncontrolled self. An individual who barters himself to slave among the sense objects according to the mad dictates of his flesh, or one who dances to the dead tune sung by his voluptuous mind, or one who roams about endlessly to fulfill the tyrannical orders of a drunken intellect. Such an one who has no peace of mind, nor the strength of a sustained aspiration to goad him on towards the temple of truth within himself. So long as the sense organs are not properly controlled, the agitations of the mind cannot be pacified. An agitated mind is no instrument either for listening or for reflection or for meditation. And without these three, the wailing power cannot be rolled up. The agitations vikshepa and the wailing avarana are caused by activity rajasa and inactivity tamasa. And we have already found that without controlling these two temptations, the unactivity sattva cannot predominate in the seeker. Pradeep ji has actually given this particular extract from Free Fall and Rise of Man in Swamiji's discourses on Kenopanishad. Thank you, Pradeep ji. It is natural in all discussions that we generally present our own arguments against a team of opposite arguments so that the discriminative intellect of the listener may, by contrast, come easily to judge the acceptability and reasonableness of our own viewpoint. Krishna uses here this commonplace technique of every drawing room when he, in the second line, explains as a contrast how self-controlled striving hard by right means can obtain it. Self-control achieved through the process of total withdrawal of sense organs from their respective objects is no doubt the beginning of spiritual life. Even in orderly life, when we want to achieve something solid, the man of the world will have to live to a large extent in self-denial. The life of a candidate during election time, of a student before his examination, of an actor or a dancer before his first reception, are all examples wherein we find that the individuals deny themselves or their idle preoccupations in their own anxiety to win their success in their respective fields. If for material gain and flimsy ephemeral glories, we have to deny ourselves to order in order to acquire and possess the desired, how much more should we deny ourselves the joys of the world outside in order to win the glories of the eternal and the permanent, the infinite, and the absolute bliss of the self? Not only it is sufficient that the seeker is seemingly denying himself all the sense objects, though this seems to be the most general misunderstanding amongst almost all sincere seekers in India today. In the name of religion or spiritual practice, they at least for some years seem to live in self-denial and self-punishments, shamelessly insulting themselves and carelessly persecuting their own physical urges and even biological needs. This sort of a devilish and suicidal self-condemning tyranny over oneself always ends in an outburst of satanic forces from the very seeker. We do not find in such dull-witted practitioners any blossoming of their spiritual fragrance, but on the other hand, we see them metamorphized into monsters who are at best a scandal even to the worst of civilizations known in history. Many of the modern educated men point out to such damaged instances and declare that religion only wrecks human life and it can add no beauty to the personality. They can be considered as wise in their argument only in an age when we can start accepting that cooking is dangerous because few cooks get their fingers burned in the kitchen. Lest the students of Gita who should fall a prey to such a misunderstanding and misconceived spiritualism, Bhagavan indicates here that the self-control seeker can, by striving rightly, obtain it. Not going to the cinemas and not visiting the playgrounds and are in themselves assurances that the students will pass their examination. The time wasted in such merrymaking must be properly utilized in intelligent study, which alone can vouchsafe for them a success in their examination. Here too, if a student appearing for an examination in mathematics were to read the whole night with geography textbooks, he may not thereby assure for himself any glorious success. He must strive rightly in order that he may gain the true success. Similarly, when a seeker has true self-control, conserved in himself energies which would otherwise would have dissipated in the gutters of sensuality, he must know how to direct those energies through the right channels, whereby he can get himself detached from his misconceived self-projections and ultimately realize for himself his own selfhood. That such an intelligent seeker can obtain it. It is the optimistic philosophy of this ever-smiling God of the Hindus, Lord Krishna. With these two verses, Krishna exhaustively answers the question raised by Arjun, and what follows clearly indicates that the Pandava prince has been convinced by the Lord's reply. The question yet remains, what would be the lot of one self-controlled and striving hard through right means who could not yet fulfill and reach the goal? Arjuna uvacha ayatiha shraddha yupeto yogachalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhi kamgati krishna gacchati. Ayati, uncontrolled, shraddhaya, by faith, upeya, possessed, yoga, from yoga, chalita manas, one whose mind wanders away, aprapya, not having attained, yoga samsiddhim, perfection in yoga, kam, which, gatim, end, krishna, gacchati, meets. He who though possessed of faith, is unable to control himself, whose mind wanders away from yoga, to what end does he, having failed to obtain perfection in yoga, go, O Krishna? In these and the following two stanzas, Vedavyasa makes Arjun raise a pertinent question, so that Krishna may get yet another chance to bring right under the footlight the supremely optimistic philosophy of Vedanta. None striving on the path of divine can ever be destroyed, and whatever he accomplishes will be faithfully carried over as a legacy for the individualized self in its pursuit here or in the hereafter. Each today is an added link in the endless chain of dead and gone yesteryears. The lengthening chain continues growing by adding it to itself, link after link, all the yesteryears. That is only one of the incidences in a human existence. And the tomorrow has no accidental or arbitrary beginning, but it is only a perfect continuation of the today. Carefully voicing forth his vague doubt, Arjun asks as to what will happen to one who strives with Shraddha but fails to accomplish complete self-control during his lifetime, or due to lack of self-sufficient self-control, falls from yoga. The idea is that such an individual may thereby come to lose both the little joys of sense objects and the absolute bliss in the hereafter. The Vedantins, even while they condemn the mere life of sense objects, do not, even for a moment, deny the fact that there are traces of joy in the sense life also. According to them, daring thinkers as they were, the joys of the sense objects, Vishaya Ananda, are in their essence nothing other than glimpses of spiritual bliss, Brahmananda. The secret import of the question is that those who faithfully follow Krishna's theory may come to lose both the chances of experiencing the finite and the infinite joy. Such a seeker, striving all his life in self-control, will be a conscious escapist, avoiding all the finite joy temptations in the gross world here. But if the uncertain factor called death were to creep in to clip the thread of his life with the scissors of time, he will be losing his chances of gaining the absolute beatitude, which is the goal that Lord Krishna seems to point out in his divine song. Again, supposing the seeker, due to lack of self-control, falls from yoga, to win in yoga, no doubt, is great victory, a gain par excellence. But if in the race, one were to get knocked down by the stealthy club of sensuousness, he stands to lose both here and hereafter. Naturally, Arjuna wants some reassurance from Krishna so that what will happen to such an individual. In this stanza also, we must note very carefully that the term Shraddha is not some maddening superstition which encourages blind faith. According to Shankara, Shraddha is the right intellectual apprehension of the deeper imports and the fuller significances of what the teachers teach and the scriptures declare. Read Swamiji's talks on Shankara's Viveka Chudamani. The inspired devotion that springs up in the bosom from among its solid intellectual convictions gained through a true appreciation is the mighty power called faith, and then that can move mountains and bring the very heavens to the earth. Now, these two shlokas are so powerful, and I can say a lot of things about it, but then we have a limited time as well. The first thing, basically, it starts with the way the abhyasa has to be done. So it is not only something that Krishna says that you need to do, but it also he's actually telling us how the abhyasa has to be done. And before abhyasa, obviously he's talking about self-control and how we should not be having a situation where our mind is dissipated, agitated, and in an agitated mind is no instrument either for listening or for reflection of the or meditation. So that point is very clear. But before that, there is very interesting commentary by Gurudev about how all this what Krishna is saying is his opinion, and opinions of various Mahatmas or various avatars like Christ, Muhammad, Buddha actually are talking about the same truth, and how these truths actually change as per time, and we have to make them relevant in our time as well. So, for example, if Krishna had many wives, it doesn't mean that in Hinduism we have many wives. We have actually Patni Vrata that we follow, and as per the times we change, and we have, that is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma in the Hinduism, that we have been able to change our lifestyle and our thinking as per the changing times. And finally, when it comes to the fundamental truths, the famous saying in Upanishads also is there, which says ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. So basically it talks about one truth being said by different people in different ways. Very powerful message here. And we also talk about the fact that in the spiritual life, how we will have to actually have this self-control and also give up our longings for the sense organs and the withdrawal from sense organs. It also talks about how this can be a problem if it is taken to one extreme, and it can actually then result into some kind of satanic forces. That is the word which is used, outburst of satanic forces. If these physical urges and biological needs are suppressed, and that is the beauty of this whole discourse, where there is a lot of balance that is being taught, and we are being told that whatever you indulge in, there has to be a control, there has to be moderation, and also the fact that we need to use our viveka to decide where to indulge and where not to, and up to what extent we have to do it. Because basically all are samsari, or basically we are all family people, and there are responsibilities and obligations that we have towards making sure that the family is also given enough happiness. And though that happiness sometimes can be material as well, and those indulgences cannot be avoided, but we have to decide up to what extent we need to go there. So very good message here. And then it also talks about how rightly we have to strive for it. So the example where you decide not to indulge in something, you don't want to go for movies or playing, But if you come home and then watch TV, for example, and not study, it is not going to help. So we have to actually striving rightly to obtain it, meaning the time that we get by letting go certain indulgences has to be properly utilized. And then it also talks about the optimism of this philosophy. And I think in the next shloka, it comes very clearly that, there is so much of optimism in this message that Krishna gives. In the second shloka 37, it talks about, I think the answer to the question is already given by Krishna. So it actually starts with the answer and then the analysis of the question. That is something that I observed here. The answer is given that even though you are not able to achieve whatever you want to achieve in this life, you create a legacy, or there are a lot of things that you have accumulated that you can take it to the next life. So it talks about carry over as a legacy for the individualized self in its pursuit here or in the hereafter. So it is a very, very optimistic philosophy where it says that death is only an incident in human life. It is one of the many incidences, and your journey continues even after your death, because you have accumulated whatever good karmas that you have in this life, and then those will not go waste. And it also says that the Vishaya Ananda basically these are all glimpses of the spiritual bliss that is Brahmananda. So we actually can imagine what is Brahmananda, which is infinite, unstoppable joy. But then we get those glimpses through the Vishananda that we live throughout the life. It also talks about something called as conscious escapist. I need to know more about this, I think, from other seekers. Exactly what it means, because escapist is normally used in a negative connotation. But here it is probably saying that it has to be conscious escapist. So I need to understand more on this. It talks about lack of self-control, as well as the stealthy club of sensuousness. So Krishna really wants this particular reassurance, and that is where in the first paragraph itself that reassurance has been provided for Krishna. And the last piece that I want to really talk about is the Shraddha, the definition of Shraddha. It is so beautifully given here. That is a kind of aha moment for me. In our corporate world, we have this term called aha moment, which talks about something that really strikes and is with you for your lifetime. So which says Shraddha is the right intellectual apprehension of deeper imports and the fuller significance of what the teachers teach and the scriptures declare. And it is not some maddening superstition or, which encourages blind faith. Very, very important. I think many times we talk about Shraddha and then it is associated with blind faith and, superstition. And this is the definition which really guides everyone. Shraddha ultimately leads to the, faith, which gained through apprehension. It is the mighty power called faith that can move mountains and bring every heaven to the earth. So it reminds me of the mantra that we talk every day, that listen every day. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayati girim yat krupa taham vande paramanandam. Hari Om.
Thank you, Meshi. Hari Om. We will now put Ajayji. I would like to invite Ajayji to share his views on this verses.
Hari Om. Om Sri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. We are in the verses 36 and 37. Two beautiful shlokas in the entire chapter. Bhagavan and Arjunan discusses the Arjuna's doubts, and Bhagavan clarifies his doubts. And again, further clarifications, Arjuna raises again certain clarifications. That's a scene of these two verses and the discussion. When Arjuna raises the question, controlling the mind is very difficult, as if controlling the wind. Bhagavan yields to that doubt, and Bhagavan agrees that one definitely it is difficult. And the last sloka, which is very Bhagavan's asamshayam mahabaho mano nurdigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaundeya vairagyena chagrihyati. Even though it is difficult, not impossible, two things are important: abhyasa and vairagya. Last week we discussed in very detail these two terms, abhyasa and vairagya. Abhyasa, the practice has to be started so that vairagya will follow. So what is the term abhyasa? What exactly it means? That one, abhyasa, the practice part. Lord further clarify that particular term, abhyasa, in this verse, and again Arjuna raises some other questions like that. Here the verse number 36. Asam yadatmana yogaha dushprapa idime matihi vashyatmanatu yatata shakyo avaptumavayata. So asam yadatmanaha, one who is having not self-controlled yogaha, yoga siddhi, attaining yoga, dushprapa iti, hard to achieve, hard to obtain, hard to achieve. Maya matihi, this is my opinion. To even then, upayata yatata, with the abhyasa and vairagya, with the practice and the dispassion, vashyalpmana, he can control the mind, avaptum shakya. He can achieve the higher self, he can achieve the perfection in the life. So here it is the Atma Ved, asam yatatmanaha vashyalpmana. The Atma Ved has to be, in this context, we have to understand as the mind. Self-extroverted is the mind, and mind introverted is the self. So the extroverted self, that's the mind, is to be taken, the Atma term, in this context, import for the word Atma has to be taken as mind. Then it will be more clear for us. So an uncontrolled mind, with an uncontrolled mind, attaining the supreme self or the supreme perfection is impossible. This is my opinion. Here, Pujya Gurudev mentioned that one, mata, mati, that is this is my opinion. This generally, mata is mati, coming from the word mati, that's the intellect. My strong intellectual opinion, my whatever I well taught, and after giving a very emphasis on the thinking process, I am giving my opinion, my strong opinion, my conviction. Generally, we call it as Hindu Mata, but actually, in the Hindu Mata itself, different matas are there, different opinions are there. Puja Gurudev elsewhere mentioned that one. Hindu Mata, Sanatana Dharma is a composite Mata. It is a Mata of different acharyas with different saints at a different point of time. It is there. Here, Bhagavan mentioned that one. After discussing with this one, this is my opinion. Without my proper self-control, self-mind control, Atma Samyamana, achieving the yoga is difficult, hard to obtain, hard to achieve that one. But with the proper means, that's important thing. With the proper means, it is possible also. Etatu shakyo apaptumapayataha. It is possible. So this important has been given here. It is for the self-control or the mind control, controlling the mind and directing the mind to the proper abhyasa. That's the two things are important. Again, as we started the discussion in the Dhyana Yoga, unless we control the agitations of the mind, no meditation is possible. So mind is by nature, that is a chanchalam. By nature, it is always agitated. Mind has two properties. It is mind going through our sense organs, indriyas, to the indriya vishayas, objects outside. And through the senses, vishayas are coming inside. And apart from that one, mind has got its own pre-memories, preoccupied memories of the vasanas are there. So these vasanas are there, which is the thought channels. Mind has got the thought channels are there. In this thought channel, any thought which eventually falls into these thought channels. So even if we control the objects through the indriyas entering the mind, that's the first part has to be done. Even then, it is difficult to, even because of the vasanas are there, it is very difficult to control the mind. So this the extroverness of the mind through the indriyas has to be curtailed, and the mind, which is then the preservation of energy is possible. Then we have to apply the right means. Then only this is possible to convert that energy. That's what Puja Gurudev mentioned here, that one. When a student preparing for the examination, he might not be, he may be restraining from seeing the films or watching the soccer or anything like that. That is not that's only halfway done. That time, which is the time and energy which is preserved, has to be utilized for the proper studies. Then only he will be able to achieve this one. So this is applicable for even our normal routine lives also. Until unless we control our mind and focus on certain things, even the ordinary results cannot be achieved. So in this case of the spiritual practices, how important that one, the controlling the mind. Controlling the mind doesn't mean that's unscientific self-denial. It has to be controlled as per the Shastras and has to be done properly. That's what this upayata yatadha. That's a proper means, and proper means we have been discussing the proper means in the entire chapter. How we can do that one? How to control the mind? This is a discussion of this particular chapter is called Dhyana Yoga, otherwise called that Atma Samyamana Yoga. In this one, from the very beginning, this been discussed that one, how we can have control the dissimilar thoughts, and we bring down the number of thoughts and bring down to the similar thoughts and bring it to one thought. That process, reduction of the thoughts process, then the controlling of the mind is possible. So here the base discusses that one. Until unless we bring the mind to the introvertness, it is most possible. It is difficult to achieve the yogas, but it is possible with controlling the mind also possible. So control the mind and bring to the focus to the inner self, then it is possible to achieve the higher goals in the life that's been discussed in that one. And Bhagavan gives the answer in this two questions, Arjuna's question, in a very beautiful way, because Arjuna's doubt was how control the mind is to Vayoripadushkaram, like controlling the mind, which is with all its turbulence and other things, how we can control the mind. Bhagavan answered that one in a very way. This is the abhyasa part for any seeker, any point of time. This is the only way through abhyasa with a regular spiritual practice. And this spiritual practice again coming down to that one, controlling the mind, bring down the agitations of the mind. So agitations of the mind has to be curtailed, has to be bring down to the lowest possible way. Then the quality of the thought. Mind is nothing but the flow of thoughts. So here that is what Puja mentioned here. From the tamasic stage, mind has to be lifted to the rajasic stage. From the rajasic stage, it has to be lifted to the sattvic stage. So the thoughts become purified, refined, and it is bring down to the purest form, that is sattvic way. From that way, it is possible. Then the next step, when the gunatira is taking place, which can go above all these three gunas, tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic, then the pure self, then the meditation is possible only with that one. So this step-by-step process is given, that one, and how to control the mind, we have discussed in detail also. So this is a verse number 36, very beautifully summarized the goal and means, importantly, how we can achieve this one, controlling the mind, and put the right efforts so that in sadhaka can achieve the goal in the life. So after listening to Bhagavan's discourse, Arjuna's doubt is very well settled. And then he is raising another question, clarification. So you have one person who is sincerely, devotedly doing your practice of the yoga. Even then, he is by some means he is not able to complete that one, to achieve that one. What is his the gati? What is his fate? In that case, Arjuna asked that one, Arjuna Vacha, Ayati Shraddhayopetaha Yoga Chalita Manasaha Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim Kam Gatim Krishna Gachati. Shraddhaya Upetaha. One with proper Shraddha, Ayati, he could not achieve the supreme self, Atma Samyamana, the controlling the mind, he could not achieve Yoga Charita Manaha. He is deflected from that one. By some means, he is not able to achieve that one. Yoga Charita Manasaha, because he is not able to achieve the full and perfection of the yoga which is indicated. Yoga Samsiddhim Aprapya Kam Gatim Gachati. What is his Gati? What is how we can proceed that whatever he tried that one, whether it is all going vain or going in vain, or which is wasting, or he is able to do that one. That's the question. This is another question which can happen, which can lingering in the mind of any sadhaka at any point of time. Okay, with the sincerity, we are doing something, but I am not able to achieve the 100% in my lifetime due to various reasons, whatever be the reasons. Sometimes lifespan is not sufficient to achieve this one, or by some other hindrances and obstructions which is coming in the life from myself and my external things. What is my practice which I have already done? Is it preserved or it is going waste? Because when we are making an attempt to control the mind, definitely we are going away from the little glimpses of the joys and pleasures in the world. And this little, whatever the joys and the pleasures which we are obtaining is also, it's a glimpse of the spiritual eternal bliss only. Even I am losing that one, and I am restraining from that one. I am not able to achieve the full bliss and 100% bliss also. So this is going to get in a dilemma. I already started my practices. I am denying certain things. I am refusing to having the ordinary pleasures, but at this time I am not able to get the full ananda, which is the bliss. And what is my fate? What is my, whether I am losing that one in midway between these two things? How I can balance that one? My practices which already obtained need to short off my lifespan, death or anything, or some other, like other hindrances which is explained in the Patanjali Yoga Shastra, this 9 doshas, Vyadhi, because of the diseases, Stanyam, not sustaining the inspiration. Okay, suddenly we get an inspiration, we started something, but it is sometimes, it will not be last for a long time, as our Brahmanandji explains that it's called soda water inspiration, like a soda water which is coming out of the soda bottle. That effervescence is coming, but it is not sustaining that one. So this the Vyadhi, Thanyam, Samshayam. Am I doing the right thing? Am I able to achieve this one? Samshayam, Pramadam, no result is there. Shall I quit that one? Whatever the practices which I already started. Alasyam, falling from dark to darker and darkest. Avirati, even though I know the right thing, I am not able to restrain from myself to doing that one. Bhranti darshanam, whatever the asatya, which is considered as the satya, which is the wrong thing, which identifies as the right thing. Alabdha bhumiya, I'm trying to do that one, but there is no result coming up. The despairiness is there. Oh, anavadistatam, nowhere it is settling ground. See, these 9 doshas, Vyadhi, Stanyam, Samshayam, Pramadam, Alasyam, Avirati, Bhranti darshanam, Alabdha bhumiya, anavadistam. All these things are the hindrances which is explained by Patanjali in the Yoga Shastra and other places also. This is applicable for the practice of the yoga in the Bhagavad Gita also. And apart from that one, this yoga and the short span of life also possible. These are the hindrances. Due to hindrances, whatever the efforts which oneself is making, he is going away from the yoga. Whatever the many reasons through which he can be not able to achieve the completeness or the perfection in the life. So this by whatever be the hindrances or the obstructions which is facing by any sadhak, and what is the gati, whether I am whatever the practices, little practices I had done during my lifetime, which is preserved or which is I lost that one, which is again I have to start from the square one. This is a question Arjuna raises that one, and Puja Gurudev beautifully explained the different aspect of that one. And striving rightly to obtain this one is important, that one. So here the word Shastra, Shraddha is again, Puja Gurudev beautifully explained that which is not the blind faith. Shraddhaya Pedaha. With a great Shraddha one has to strive. And this is Adi Shankara's definition. Shraddha is the right intellectual apprehension of the deeper imports and the fuller significance of what the teachers teach and the scriptural text. Shastrasya, Guruvakyasya, Satyabuddhyavadharana. This is the Shraddha. This is not the blind faith, it is a kind of 100% intellectual sharpness to understand the what teacher says and what scripture says. That's the important of this. So that one has to be with that Shraddha, even though oneself is striving in this path, he who though possesses the faith or Shraddha is unable to control himself, whose mind is wanders away from yoga, is deflecting from the yoga. What end does he, having failed to attain the perfection of yoga, O Krishna? So whether these practices has, I knows that whatever the punyas which is made out of my practices, whether it will be preserved for the coming or the next birth or the coming time, or it is lost, I have to start from the zero. This is a question Arjuna raises. This is a genuine doubt any seeker, which always asking in the lingering in the mind of the seeker, and as a representative of all seekers at all point of time, Arjuna raises this question to Lord Sri Krishna, and Bhagavan gives the beautiful answers in the coming shlokas with a very positive, that's what they have indicated, that one, the positiveness of the philosophy. There is no kind of, in this all, this is very well explained, which is that positive part of the philosophy, Sanatana Dharma, we can see in the coming verses also beautifully. So this entire Dhyana Yoga, again, it is the controlling the agitation of the mind and preparing the mind for the meditation. It's been discussed in detail. Each point, Arjuna, wherever he needs a clarification, he raises that one. Lord Sri Krishna, with his immense patience, is explaining not only for Arjuna, for the entire seekers at any point of time. That's what the two verses I could understand from these two verses. Thank you very much for giving me going through these verses. Hari Om, thank you very much. Hari Om.
Thank you, Ajay ji. Hari Om. We'll move to Rajendran ji for his views on this.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Ajay ji has spoken also on or Nanduji has spoken very well about these stanzas. The question here is, it's asamyatatmana, by a man of controlled self, and Vaisyatmanaha, by the self-controlled one. So controlled one and uncontrolled one. This is that we are exploring the differences between these two type of individuals. Chanjalam hi mana Krishna pramadi balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram, that we have discussed it. Bhagavan said asamshayam mahabaho mano chalam mano nigraham chalam, but abhyasena tu kauntaya vairagyana cha grihyate, that also have been well discussed. Here abhyasa and vairagya is the subject of discussion actually, but that stanzas itself is further extended to this 36th stanza, asking some the difference. Asamyadatmana yoga dushprabha idi me madi vasyatmana tu yadada shakyo vaptu mubhayata. It means yoga, I think, is hard to be attained by one of uncontrolled self. But the self-controlled striving can obtain it by proper means. We have in many other parts of Gita, other chapters of Gita discussed this interest of these stanzas in different ways. For example, in Karma Yoga, it was discussed as Atakena prayuktoyam pavam charadi purushaha anichinnamami varshneya baladiva niyojidaha. It is asked in a different context and in a different way. How we are committing all these? How we are committing all these sins? Although we don't want to do that, still it is happening. What is the reason? So this was answered by Bhagavan. Kama esha, krodha esha, yajoguna samudbhava, mahasano, mahapatma, vidyanamiha, vairima. Kama and krodha. Too much lust or too much wants. Kama is a general term. Sex also is included. Not only the sex, in Sanskrit, kama is a general term for wants. Sex also is included in that. Kama esha, krodha esha, tejo guna samudbhava, mahasano, mahapatma, vidyanamiha, vairina. This is our vairi. Kama and krodha. If he want to achieve, one wants to achieve something, and any external force that stands as an obstacle to that, then he will fight with it. That is krodha. That is how krodha comes. Krodha, kama esha krodha. Mahasano, mahapatma. This kama has a habit of mahasana. Whatever you consume, still unsatisfied. Never have a satisfied mind. Such person is called as mahasana, mahapatma, the one who is committing to achieve that. So this is where they are coming from. Rajoguna samudbhava. So Rajoguna is the first thing that has to be controlled. That is what, in a different way, it is discussed here. Yoga, I think, is harder to be attained by one uncontrolled self. So controlling means we should not mistake it for suppressing. Panchamukha is the senses are our indriya vishayas are going in 5 different ways. Shravana, Shabda, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Gandha. It is traveling in 5 different ways. But all these 5 different ways are to be diverted to single direction. That is Lord Paramatma. To that direction, it has to be diverted. It doesn't mean that we suppress it. Suppressing has been discussed here by Puja Gurudev, that it is that is not the way it is to be done, but that is a crude thing, and that is because of that our spirituality has been misinterpreted by many people, that it is a useless thing. And so this is our biggest misunderstanding in spirituality. In fact, all our rishis have many of our rishis have had their family life. So it is not denied actually, but it is sort of controlled, regulated, and it has to be in righteous manner. It has to be all these. That is the reason it is that dharmam, artham, kamam, mosham. Dharma is the first thing. Whatever we achieve, that has to go through dharma. As simple as that. Now here, Puja Gurudev has mentioned in this. There is a beautiful paragraph which is an individual who barters himself away from away to slave among the sense objects according to the mad dictates of his flesh, or he who dances to the death tunes sung by his voluptuous mind, or he who roams about endlessly to fulfill the tyrannical demands of the drunken intellect, such a one has neither peace of mind nor the strength of sustained aspiration to goad him on towards the temple of truth within himself. See, this is the beauty of the things. Whatever we are discussing, we are struggling to find our own self, to realize our own self. It is not away from us. It is very, very much within us. So seeking with our own self, we are losing all the controls at times. You know, it is, if you logically think, it looks very ridiculous. How can we lose, our own control? So this is the interest of this stanza. I'm not taking much time. Other speakers are there. So when, but it is, very beautifully mentioned in this stanza. Now, so uncontrolled mind and controlled mind. So controlled mind. That is the reason we are always, our gurus are always recommending japa, japa, japa. You have to chant it. Japa mala we have to carry, or at least we have to mentally, while we just we should not let our mind to roam around. Japa is very much required. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Navada Bhakti has been proposed by Bhagavan. So that is the interest of the this stanza. Now going back to going forward to 37th. Ajayji as well described this. We want this, but whatever we have achieved, or although we want to have it, we want to practice it very much, still we are losing our control, or we are losing, I mean, directions are lost, we get disoriented. For such persons, such devotees, such sadhaka, what happens? This is the question is asked here. Arjuna vaja ayati shraddhayopeda yoga chalida manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gadi Krishna gacchati. It is well described. Arjuna said, he who, though possessed of faith, is unable to control himself, whose mind wanders away from yoga, to what end does he, having failed to attain perfection in yoga, go, O Krishna? So what happens for the person who wants to, I mean, in midway, midlife crisis, in the event of a midlife crisis happens, what happens to his sadhana? And this is being asked here, and going forward, Bhagavan is going to give the right answer to it. Actually, Yogaradova, Bogaradova, Sangaradova, Sangha Vihina, Yasyad Brahmani Ramade Chittam, Nandadi, Nandatyava. Either you are a bogi or you are a yogi. But if your mind is with the Lord always, you are the one who is actually happy. Leave alone the salvation or mukti and all. When we live, all the time when we concentrate on Lord, remembering Him, then we are happy. Gurus say, then we are always happy. But this is our experience. Whatever material possessions or pleasures that we have, by putting a lot of effort, for how long it will last? For some time. Then you lose interest in that. This is the trouble with the names and forms. Whatever material pleasures are there in this world will die after some time. Always that carries bliss, ananda, which is dwelling in the Lord only. This is This we can think, I mean, we have some experience through our studies. When we think about Lord only, we are happy. Otherwise, we are, like yesterday was Janmashtami, I mean, today's Janmashtami was here, day before yesterday. And the way Krishnas are running through this road, Gopikas. So that gives an immense pleasure, the way we can't describe it. For last 2-3 years, we couldn't do that. This year, it was very well done. A lot of, Gopika dances and all. So these type of pleasures we never get from outside. I mean, anything that is associated with the Lord only gives such pleasure. From external things cannot give this pleasure. This is what I want to understand, and this is what I want to say. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, Recoding. Meenakshi.
Hari Om. So the verses 36 and 37, they are in continuation to the verses earlier, wherein Arjuna is asking that the mind is very powerful, and how do we control it? So Lord Krishna gives the answer that there are two factors. One is abhyasa, that's repetition, and the other is vairagya, that's renunciation. So the earlier verse, the way the verse 36 starts is explaining that abhyasa was not covered in the earlier verse, and hence more emphasis is being given on the term abhyasa. So abhyasa and very beautiful commentary by Gurudev. It's like you can read and read again and again. So abhyasa in my term is repetition. So you repeat the same thing again and again, and then it kind of sinks into you. Like Gurudev has used this sentence, this uncontrolled and totally dissipated personality cannot bring any dynamic vigor. And we see that in our regular life as well. So Gurudev has spent like 2 pages in sense control, so which means it's prime importance, and at levels like which we are, or personally I am in, this is a base of everything, the base of sense control. So even in general life, if we are doing too much of parties or just going out, if we have no sense control, if we do not check all the 5 senses, generally also we have no time, we have no vigor to even attend the classes or do anything. We just don't have those time. Versus if we are controlling those sense organs, then we ourselves feel how futile those energies which were wasted were. Going and meeting, just unnecessarily checking the WhatsApp chats or checking any of the social media channels. It's actually, first of all, it's harming our mind. And secondly, it leaves us with no energy to do anything at all. Versus if we shut down unnecessary friends completely, we realize how much time we have, how much of energy we have. And also, I feel that this is really important, and this is something which we all should practice at a very prime level. Even Gurudev has mentioned so much. He's also mentioned that even at general level, if we have to achieve something in life, unless and until we live in self-denial. So self-denial is not that we are not eating this something, but we are just leaving it for something higher. So if we have a higher goal in our life, then we give up on things which are not, which will come in the way of it. And that goal has to be very fresh in our mind. So the time wasted in such preoccupations must be utilized in intelligent studies. First, we need to have that time. We need to understand that these things are futile. And we keep on doing this again and again. Like I keep reading a lot on, I really like to read more on sense control. And I read this book, Sure Ways of Success by Swami Shivananda, which has an extensive chapter on Mauna and control of energy, conservation of energy, where he has mentioned that human beings, we have enormous amount of energy with us. And there are 6 rat holes in which we can control, out of which one is keeping your mouth shut, because we keep talking too much. We talk too much, we laugh too much, unnecessary laughing. We have the habit of bursting into laughter, talking too much, unnecessarily talking. So if we control, he has in fact said that on weekends, keep quiet for at least 2 hours or 6 hours. He's spoken, women talk more. So control that, and you can see yourself how much of energies we have. When we're walking on the road, we keep looking here and there. Just look down and walk. you will yourself realize there's no need of looking here and there and walking. You just focus to where we want to go. When you're working, you just focus on your work. These small things make a lot of difference, even in general life, to perform better. So for me, these are the base levels of everything. Like certain things, very simple things he has mentioned. Like most of the people, when we sit, we keep shaking some other part of our body. We keep shaking our legs, which is also energy goes from that. So all those things, when we control at very base level, we ourselves realize that it leaves us with a lot of space and time. It leaves us with a lot of focus. We have a lot of focus on things. And this is this is the most important aspect before we move forward to meditation, because meditation, I guess it's a very simple word which we speak about. It's a very, very deep word. At this point, I will talk about myself. I'm not ready for that. What I can actually work on is controlling my mind, making myself steady. Also, so abhyasa is basically repetition. So you basically repeat the same thing again and again. One is control yourself and repeat it. Repeat. If you're reading the books, and we keep on reading the spiritual book every single day, every single paragraph. So not just collecting a lot of books and reading thousands of books, but reading one textbook and reading it again and again so that it sinks into us. This is just one kind of an example. Second thing which I wanted to speak about is vairagya. Vairagya, which Gurudev has covered as well. So dispassion comes naturally. So as we start going into the classes, as we come to Chinmaya Mission classes, we kind of have given up on having unnecessary friends or watching unnecessary movies, but that has come into us naturally. Now, a few points which I noted down, that we expect a lot, which Gurudev also mentioned. We expect a lot from material world. We expect it to give a lot of satisfaction, but material worlds, it can't give us satisfaction. Most of the so I've taken this from Swami Sarvapriyananda. He says that lasting satisfaction we can get from yoga, which is from karma, bhakti, and dhyan. It doesn't come from bhoga. Only yoga gives us happiness, because bhoga it's ephemeral. It will just, all the objects, all the achievements, all the people, the kids, our family, everything goes off, and we have seen that our parents pass away. All the attachments which we had, they pass away. And then but we still persist. We are still there. So we are left with that emptiness. And the more we want to enjoy these things, the more we cling on to or mix around with other people's lives, it leaves us with addictions. We get mixed up with them and we get addicted to it. We want it even more. So expecting a lot from objects is at a subtle level, we have to understand that it's not going to lead us anywhere. So I mean, it's a very subtle thing. Basically, at an intellectual level, maintain that vairagya. So that's the verse 36. Verse 37, Gurudev has given very beautiful explanation. 3 points which I really liked. One is about, so even though he's mentioned that each today is an added link to the endless chain of dead and gone yesterday. So whatever has happened yesterday, your today is not going to be something afresh or something different. It is based on what we have done yesterday. So we make our today good so that our tomorrow is better. Second thing, he has mentioned about, he's mentioned very beautiful about that the joys of sense objects, they are also glimpses of spiritual bliss. So the joys of sense object are also glimpses of spiritual bliss. I'll leave Sanjay ji to explain more about it. And the third is the definition of Shraddha, which is really, really beautiful. It's the inspired devotion. Devotion is how much we identify ourselves with that particular idea. So that inspired devotion that springs from our bosom, with the solid intellectual convictions gained from that apprehension. So it's a beautiful definition of Shraddha. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, Meenakshi. Nanduji, please.
Hari Om. Very nicely explained by all the speakers on the Shloka 36 and 37 for discussion today. 36 is just like a continuation of the answer for the Arjuna's question, and 35, Shloka 35, we have elaborately discussed on this one, and today's shloka about 36. So this is very important that Bhagavan says, iti me mati. So whose opinion it is? It is a Bhagavan opinion. That's why it's like very, very important. If something, maybe I am putting something as a my opinion, maybe no one is going to listen about that. But if it is something like Bhagavan's opinion, then it is having like very much importance. And Gita Mata itself, like in our like all these scriptures, because it is came from Bhagavan's mukha, it is very important. And I feel to link this particular shloka with the similar same chapter 6.5, which is about Udare Datanam. So we are the ourselves. It is in our hand whether we should go on the upward direction or maybe on the downward direction. And as Bhagwan's opinion, or maybe what Gurudeva is saying, or what the saintly peoples are saying, I think that is making very much importance. And in the Gita Mata itself, I mean, what we need to do, we need to analyze ourselves. I mean, where we are. And in corporate world, I think Umesh also mentioned about it. Like carry out like a gap analysis. Where am I? Now where am I? And if you see like Gita Mata chapter 14 onwards, 14 is the Gunatriya Vibhaga Yoga, where the Sattva Raja Tama, 3 qualities are mentioned. And Dr. Sanjay ji always mentions in all our scripture, if you can see, the very important things which is like should do, that is mentioned in first. And in the Gunatriya Vibhaga Yoga, and from there onwards, you can see all the Sattva Guna qualities are mentioned first, then Rajaguna, then Tamoguna. And if you see the chapter 14, Gunatraya Vibhaga, then the chapter 16, which is about Devasura Sampatti. So what is the quality of Devas, quality people, and Asura quality people? Then the 17th chapter about the Shraddha Traya Vibhaga, so 3 qualities of Shraddha. And that is little bit spill over on the 18th chapter as well. So all these Sattva Rajatama qualities are very well explained. And if anyone is like, I mean, if someone has read like a Dasbodha, it is like very nicely explained in the 2nd chapter of Dasbodha by Samat Ramdasa. So all these qualities, and the 2nd chapter is the title itself is about like Lakshana, how the people are. And when I was reading that, I feel, I mean, okay, I'm very much, and very in the profound word used by like Samat Ramdasa, like qualities of idiots. So we feel that, no, I'm very much a wise person and this and that. And when you read that qualities, I feel that maybe I'm here itself. And maybe I'm talking about a lot of things about wise person. So we need to see where am I. And there is a website like dasbodh.com. There also like English version of Dasbodha is also there. So that is very much important. And about like watching TV, I think in Gurudeva commentary, it is like very well mentioned about that. And when we watch TV, there are a lot of serials, one after other and everything. And if you can see what is mentioned there, it is about like, everything is about like a Shadaripu. Shadaripu means like 6 qualities, which are like bad qualities, which are about like Ram, Krodh, Moho, Lobh, Mada, Matsar. All those qualities are pulled there. And when I watch the TV, all those qualities I try to grab. And that's the reason it mentioned that if we are walking on this spiritual path, we should refrain from that. But maybe, okay, you can watch the TV, but what we should do, maybe these are the scheduled, the 6 bad qualities, whereas there is like a Bhagwan, and Bhagwan is called as like a Shadgun Aishwarya Sampanna. So which is like a Yashasri, Audarya, Jnana, Vairagya, Bala. All those qualities are with Bhagwan. And I need to think about that, how those qualities should come within me. And that's the way we should. And watching TV, similarly, like newspaper, maybe one after another, new challenge we watch. I watch maybe like NDTV, but I don't satisfy with the news. Then I go with another channel, just like flipping, like our mind itself is like, with one thing, we are not satisfying thing. And this 36 shloka is very much important for our qualities. And Dr. Sanjay mentioned once, I think, he was saying that when he was feeling to have maybe something sweet or something, he used to have take like neem patta. So with that itself, maybe that mind will not say again that, okay, I need sweet. So that is I think one of the good qualities, and we should have those things. Then moving on the next shloka, which is about 37 shloka. Again, after 2 shloka explanation by Bhagavan, then Arjuna is raising the question, and this question maybe we can say like on behalf of us. Okay, what happens if I'm attending maybe every week like Chinmaya study group classes, and okay, what is going to happen with that? And this 3 slokas are going to be there. What is going to happen and all that? And Bhagwan is like very nicely answered those. Maybe it is going to upcoming this one. And maybe like I feel that maybe at least I'm in first standard. So what will happen? I need to start from Montessori again, maybe next birth or something. But Bhagwan has assured that one. And that is, I think, very much important for all of us, even all the new sadhakas or whoever. Yes, there is a way, I mean, you can achieve, but you have to have that faith and everything. And about Sri Shraddha, I think most of the people mentioned about this one. And Bhagwan also assuring that one, Shraddhavan Lapte Jnana, yeah, it is said by Bhagwan. But again, like Tatpara Sayatri Indriya, so we should have control on our Indriyas also. And on doing all these things, I think in past we have had classes from Sadhana Panchakam, and whatever it is mentioned there, like only 5 shlokas of Sadhana Panchakam, but there are like 40 points which are there, which are just like a checklist for sadhakas to follow, what need to do, starting from the Vedabhyasa and all that thing. And coming on like Shraddha, Dhaneshwar Maharaj has like one very nice movie is there, like Nustiyachi Shraddha, Zombu Pahe, Paramapada, means I have faith, very much faith. But as like Bhagwan is saying, like Arjuna, Dhaneshwar Maharaj put that wording in the Bhagwan's mouth. Like if you have only faith and if you are thinking I will reach there, so it is not possible. So just I'm having Shraddha, and you can see like millions of people, they visit like temples and every and here and there. But that is there anything is happening? But it's very important why I'm doing all these things. We need to understand that, and on that part, I think we need to go. Very well.
Hari Om. Thank you. Pradeep ji, please.
Hari Om. Asamyagatmana yogam yogo dushprapaiti me mati vashyatmanatu yatata shakyo avaptum upayata. So as Nanduji said, it is very important to read that line, that it is me mati. Bhagavan says it is my opinion. So it is very, very important. And as Ajay said, it is to be understood Samyadatma as the mind, the control of the mind. So basically all Bhagavad Gita is nothing but text of mind control, the manual of self-unfoldment. So it is the focus on this verse is completely on the mind control. And probably this is the last verse in this chapter meditation. Now the 37 onwards, it goes into another set of questions. So I'm not touching upon 37. So 36 is, we have to understand these things. And Ajay also said that Gurudev has given very, very, very clearly what is this, I mean, our misconceptions about the religion, about our putting our efforts into something. For example, even for the exams, we deny the self-denial. We deny our external activities. Meenakshi ji said that we can conserve energy by not making, getting into so many activities, laughing and talking and all these things. But the misunderstanding is that, or the misapplication is that what happens, we deny the activities, we do a lot of self-denial, but we don't apply that conserved energy into the correct field. Gurudev has very clearly said that the mathematics exam, you don't get into activities and you conserve your energy, time, and sit and study geography. Is there any advantage? So it is very important that self-denial or not wasting of time into worldly activities is very important. But at the same time, we need to conserve the energy and don't waste the time, conserved time and energy, but apply in the right direction, not something else. Again, we say tomorrow I have to do this, and I sit there and think of something else and waste my time. It's not no good at all. So that application, this is very important. And then this up to this, probably this chapter, as Ajay reminded it, it is Dhyana Yoga. It is or Atma Samyamana Yoga. And it starts from, so what it talks about is all yoga. What is yoga? We have enough, we have various explanations given by the God. That Samatvam Yoga Uchide, Yoga Karma Sudhaushalam, Yoga is to unite, and then Dukkha Samyoga, Viyogam is yoga. And then what is yoga Rudhavastha is also explained. And also in the beginning it is said that you have to lift yourself by yourself, because mind is your friend and also your enemy. So knowing all these things, we need to get into what is our goal, what is our purpose of doing all these things, to get yoga. So what for that yoga is, what is the advantage of getting this yoga? What is yoga? So Samatvam, the dexterity in action, the equanimity of your mind. Dukkha Samyoga, Viyoga is yoga. We are always into sorrow. To remove it is yoga. So yuj, to unite with yourself, is yoga. So all these things, what is the advantage? Without knowing the advantage, why should we strive for something? You don't know what is going to happen. So that is why the verse 22 or something, it says, Guruna api vichalyate. That is, even big sorrow can't move you. We are affected even with a small issue. Somebody said something or something happened, minor things, we are affected. We can't do anything else. We are totally preoccupied and sits and waste our time. But Bhagavan says that Guruna api vichalyate. Guruji always says this particular verse. He has said it has been throughout his life. This verse is very helpful for him. So Guruna api vichalyate, even big sorrow won't move you. So this is what. So knowing that this is such a thing, that we need to apply our mind to do the this thing. So and Bhagavan says here that the uncontrolled mind, the undisciplined mind cannot achieve this. Dushprabha is as good as cannot achieve. And Samya, the Vashyatmana, the one who brings his mind to the control, can get it. So now, our Sanjay ji said in the class that without knowing the meaning of Sankhya and not meaning, the depth of the understanding in Sankhya Yoga and the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, this cannot be understood in that depth. So that it talks about, Gurudev talks about this particular, that Maya concept and the rise of man and fall of man so beautifully. That is as far as the Sankhya part is concerned. The Patanjali Yoga Sutra is concerned, the mind's status is completely explained in the beginning, the Samadhipada. That is when the mind is in its Swarupa, is close to its Swarupa, it is there in Niruddhavastha, it is no vrittis at all. There are 5 states of the mind. That is the Chitta, the Chipta, Muda, Vikshipta, Ekagra, and Niruddha. Chipta is the fluctuating, then Muda is in a baser, and Vikshipta is agitated, and Ekagra is relatively quiet, and then Niruddha is no vritti state. So when the mind is in Niruddha avastha, that is, it is close to the Lord. All other times it is with the vrittis, and vrittis are of 5 types, and that is the called pramana, viparya, vikalpa, nidra, smriti. So, so in all these process, I mean, in these vrittis, that is vritta means Sanjay ji has explained that pravana, viparya, and all these things. So, say for example, vikalpa means you mistake something. I mean, like in our Malayalam, we say that kala vettu means somebody said the ox delivered, and you are taking the rope to tie the calf. So, without thinking that the ox cannot deliver. So that clarity of thing that Sanjay ji said that the Vandhyaputra and all that is asat, which is not possible. So such things also creates vritti, and so that means there is no focus. So for in all these type of vrittis, we need to identify that where do we stand, how are we focused on this understanding, and that is how these vrittis has to be controlled. So pramana, pratya, vikalpa, nidra, smriti, and all these things can be, how can this be managed? That is abhyasa, vairagya, tannirodha. By abhyasa and vairagya, the same thing Bhagavan says here, abhyasa tu kaunteya, vairagya another grihyate. So, and abhyasa and vairagya is beautifully explained. Earlier verse it was not explained, so here Bhagavan has explained. And so that abhyasa is that effort, that yatna, that is what the second line of this verse says, that vashyatmanatu yatata. So vashyatmana is about vairagya, and yatata is the self-effort, that is abhyasa. Abhyasa will take you to have the focus of viveka, the nitya, anitya, vastu, viveka. What is real and what is not real. So that is vairagya. And this abhyasa is, and that how that can be dradabhumi, it can be established, that is by nirandara, the Patanjali Sutra says, Satu Dirgagala Nairandarya Satkara Sevito Dradabhumi. So it has to be done continuously. It's a Ishwarji always says, not continuous, continual. There is no gap. Nirantara. There is no gap between two. So every time continuously this has to be done. And Satkara Sevada. And how this tapas, brahmacharya, vidya, shraddha, with all these things, it has to be done continuously. And then only, but why we have to do? Remember that this guruna bhi vichalyate, you will be completely under control. So that is to get that complete control, and nothing can move you. We have to take effort, and that is effort. Putting effort is this abhyasa. So repeated doing dirghagala, nairandarya, satkara sevita, dradabhumi, and then the vairagya. Vairagya is Sanjay ji has explained that the class Yatamana Samjna, Vedireka Samjna, Ekendriya Samjna, Vashikara Samjna. So that is the Vashikara Samjna is a complete control. So initially Yatamana Samjna means nothing is in our control. Then Vedireka is something is in our control. Ekendriya is except one, everything is in our control. Then Vashikara Samjna is that everything is there, but we are not swayed by it. Everything, we have the complete control. Everything is in our side. Vashikara Samjna. So that is the Apara Vairagya. Then still the Para Vairagya is there. So with this, this is the effort which has to be put in to achieve this. So I think this time is up. Hari Om.
Hari Om. पता नहीं क्या हो गया, चल नहीं रहा। Hari Om, can you hear me?
Yes, Manish.
Hari Om, then Suresh ji, please.
Hari Om, Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sri Bhagavan Uvaja Asamyadatmana Yoge Dushprapya Idime Madi Vasyatmana Tu Yadaya Shakyova Aptu Ubayada Arjuna Uvaja Aidi Srathyo Veda Yoga Charita Manasa Prapya Yoga Samsitim Kam Gadim Krishna Gachadi. These are the two verses going through today, and very nice, beautiful explanations we have heard from the previous speakers, especially from Ajayji, very nicely summarized these verses. And looking at all the yogas, from the Bhagavad Gita, what is the main discussion? The main discussion is to control the mind. If you are choosing any path, bhakti or the karma or the jnana or the Raja Yoga or any path, if you are choosing, the basic requirement is you should have a peaceful, controlled mind you need to have. So we are acquiring and conquering everything from the outer world, acquiring the wealth, gaining the properties or whatever from the outer side you are getting easily, But what is inside, it is extremely difficult to conquer or to become controlled. So this is the reason. There are a lot of, apart from the detailed commentary, there are a lot of nice books are available also, which is the cream of the Bhagavad Gita, summarizes in few chapters. There are a lot of books are available. Many of you may knowing also. And Bhardevidam Vidyabhavan has published a book called Gita Madhurji. In that book, it is quoting the verse number 35. Asamsya Mahabhaho Mano Nurgraham Chalam Abhyasena Gaundeya Vairagyana Cha Grihyade. This sloga, the 35 sloga, is emphasizing the most important sloga from the Gita. It is saying that it is very true that, as I mentioned, that the basic qualification we need the control of the mind. If you have a steady mind, a controlled mind, a peaceful mind, you don't have. And then it is very difficult to read all these things or practice all these things and bending your body and limbs and legs. You are not going to reach anywhere. So this is the reason, is the most, the basic need is to control the mind. So in the last verse, Bhagavan was saying that asamshayam mahabaho. There is no doubt. It is very difficult to control the mind. But however, abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyana cha grihyate. You need to have two things: the abhyasa, the continuous effort, the relentless effort, as Pradeepji mentioned, that the nirandara abhyasa, you need, and then kaunteya, the vairagya, the dispassion, the vairagya also. If you, abhyasa maybe very hardly you can get it, or you can do the practice, the continuous practice, you can do that. But again, the vairagya and the continuous practice, last week I have given an example of the bird also. And both we can see that the continuous practice and the vairagya also, there's a determination, and he took a firm decision. The bird took a firm decision to empty the ocean. So it is like that. For the vairagya, you need the God's grace also. In that perspective, there are a lot of analysis in our text, or we can see that, and especially as Sanjay ji mentioned that from 32 onwards, these verses, Madhusudana Saraswati is analyzing in the light of the Patanjali Yoga Sutram and the other psychological test, the Yoga Vasishtam. In the light of these two texts, he is analyzing these verses, and the commentaries goes on for many pages. So that is why, as Pradeepji mentioned that the vairagya also, it is analyzed in the light of the pramana, viparya, vikalpa, nidra, and the smriti, the 5 steps, which is in detail talking in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So like that, to acquire this vairagya, you need the God's grace. So in that context, there is a very nice sloga we can see in the Shivananda Lahiri, the sloga number 20, which is saying that Sada Mohadavyam Paradi Yodiyanam Kujagiro Nadatya Tyasha Shakha Jadadi Soiram Abhida Kabalan Pitcho Me Hrude Kabim Atyanda Javalam Dridam Bhaktya Bhatva Shiva Bhavat Dadidam Guru Bho. How to control the mind. This is the best typical example is given. The Bhakta is praying to the God. Kabalan Picho me Hridayam Kabim Atyanda Javalam Dridam Bhaktya Betha Shiva Bhavat Adhinam Guru Bho. Here, what a beautiful address is there. O Kabalan, O Shiva. Kabalan means Shiva is always carrying a Kabalan because he is carrying a skull. Skull is taken from the crematory ground, and this is using for the begging as a bhiksha patram, and it is using for the eating the food also. So that is why he is addressing, the Bhakta is addressing Shiva as Kabalan, O Shiva. And then Picho, a beggar. Beggar means it is not a mere meaning of the normal beggar. With higher respect, it is saying that, oh beggar, me hriday kabim, the monkey of my heart, atyanda chabalam. What is the nature of the heart? Atyanda chabalam, extremely fickle. Is this monkey, it never sit quiet, and it is, you can see that the monkey's eyes also, it is always moving around and it is looking everywhere, because that is a reflection of the mind. It is traveling everywhere. So this is the nature of the monkey. And then what Shiva should do, and the prarthana is Dhritam Bhaktya Bathva, bind the mind strongly with my cord of the bhakti, with the bhakti strongly bind my mind, but then don't leave me. And the final prarthana is the Bhavad Adhinam Kuru Bho, Bhavad Adhinam Kuru Bho. Keep it under your control, then there will be no fear. This is so, these type of qualities we should have, the bhakti, also the grace of the God also, it is required. So very clearly in the 35 verse, it is saying that, of course, you can control the mind because of the continuous practice and the vairagya. These two qualities you have to inculcate. And then coming to the 36 verse, which is saying that Asam yadalpana yogo dushprabhya iti me madi vasyatmana tu yadada shakyo vyaptum upayada. Asam yadalpana yoga dushprabha iti me madi vasyatmana yadada tu upayada avaptum shakya. Which means yoga, I think it is hard to be attained by one of uncontrolled self, but the self-controlled striving can obtain it by proper means. According to my opinion, Bhagavan is saying that I think it is hard to attain by one of the uncontrolled self. There are two types self is mentioning here. I am asamyadalpana, one who don't have the control on the self. It is difficult for them. But if it is vasyalpana, if the self is controlled for them, it is easy. Upayada avaktam shakya. So it is easy. And in the previous chapters also, you can see that everywhere raising and raising again, Arjuna is raising his doubts and Krishna is uprooting his doubts. So that is the reason. Here we can see that in the next verse, again, Arjuna is raising his doubt. Arjuna Uvaja Ayati Srathyo Veda Yoga Charita Manasa Aprapya Yoga Samsitim Kam Gedi Krishna Gachadi. He Krishna Srathya Ubeda Ayati Yoga Charita Manasa Yoga Samsitam Aprapya Kam Gedi Gachadi. Here again he is raising in 2-3 verses. You can 37, 38, and 39. You can see that again he is raising. He who, though possessed of faith, is unable to control himself, whose mind is wanders away from yoga, to what end does he, having failed to attain perfection in yoga, go, O Krishna? Here, Madhusudana Saraswati, it is very nicely, it is explained that, at the end of the day, we have to acquire the Jivan Mukti. If something is somehow, if you are not reaching to that level, even though you have a Tattva-jnani, and in 2 contests, he is doing a deep analysis, even though you are acquiring this Tattva-jnana, if you are not reaching that Jivan Mukta Avastha, what will be the result? This is the question he is raising. Here, let us conclude this discussion here, and we can see in the next week what will be the result in the another 3 verses Arjuna is raising. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you so much, Sureshji. Sukumarji, please concluding prayers.
Hari Om. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामय, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ओम् श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। Let us take our pledge. We stand as one family, bound to each other with love and respect. We serve as an army, courageous and disciplined, ever ready to fight against all low tendencies and false values within and without us. We live honestly, the noble life of sacrifice and service, producing more than what we consume and giving more than what we take. We seek the Lord's grace, keep us on the path of virtue, courage, and wisdom. May thy grace and blessings flow through us to the world around us. We believe that the service of our country is the service of the Lord of Lords, and devotion to the people is the devotion to the Supreme Self. We know our responsibilities, give us the ability and courage to fulfill them. Om Tat Sat. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.